and welcome to the sewing guide for Madalynne's 12 Days of Christmas collection. Now, this is going to be a brief walkthrough of all the styles that were included in the collections. It won't be a full sew along, kind of like your cliff notes for sewing up the collection. But if you have any questions when you get the kit, cutting out fabrics, pattern alterations, whatever, you can always reach out to hello@madalynne.com, or you can put your questions in the comments here, because if you have the question, somebody else might as well. So the first style that I'm going to go through is the star of the collection. Well, all of them are stars, but this is the brightest star, the Fiona Underwire bra, which is a brand new pattern that was released for this collection / holiday. Technically, it came out on Small Business Saturday, and this came out on Saturday Monday, but it's getting a little too technical. So first thing that I want to call out is that even though there were 3 kits for the Fiona, and we sewed them up with the Fiona pattern, we added the wide band elastic and some other trims, maybe not, maybe it's just the wide band elastic, which the Fiona does not take, just in case that you want to sew up another lingerie pattern. So even though it says Fiona Underwire bra on your DIY kit, you could use it for other lingerie patterns depending on what that pattern needs. So the first, fabrication was this beautiful rose embroidered two lace. I love it. And we sewed up in 2 different versions because just want to show you the different ways that you could sew it up. So for this one, it has the black lace for the lower bra cups and the power bar, as well as the back band. For this one, we just wanted the embroidered two lace to shine. We wanted as much of that embroidered two lace as possible showing. One thing I wanted to call out was that on the Fiona pattern, we added just a little bit, just a hair to the bottom bands on the front frame, because the way that the bottom band is on, or the way that the bottom portion is on the front frame, there's very little just room here. So we wanted to extend this just a tad. What is that? 3/8 of an inch, just so that the embroidered two lace shined a little bit more. This is gorgeous lace. We want to show it off. So didn't want to make that call out. Also on this sample, we had the 3x3 hook and eyes. The pattern is drafted for a 4x3 hook and eye, but there was an option in the product listing that if you want a 3x3 hook and eye, to put a note in the comments when checking out. And there were several people who actually read the product description like a good customer. Believe me, listen. When I'm shopping online, especially during the holidays, I fall into the trap where I just put add to cart, click buy, check out, and I don't even read the product description. But the pattern was drafted for a 4x3 hook and eye, but you do have the option to do a 3x3 hook and eye. And there were several customers who did. So thank you for reading the product description. That was one fabrication. We also, in the sample, or in the product photos, we sewed up the Fiona panty just as is, because from my experience with fitting, you had that one customer, one person, one lingerieist who loves a full butt, and then you have the one lingerieist person who wears lingerie who just loves a thong. So I wanted to show what it looked like with a thong, and then how to sew it up with a thong. So this one is the Millie panty from my book Sew Lingerie. This is the Fiona just as is. This is the red style right here, exactly as the pattern calls for. Yep, no alterations there. Gorge. Then the red velvet one, actually we gifted it to the model who was Amelia. So I don't have that sample, and I picked a really bad sample to show this. But on that sample, it was red velvet all over, and then it had this scalloped lace, embroidered two lace on top. Now for that one, we finished this bottom band with fold over elastic, so it does not have a scalloped edge like the other samples. So to do that, what we did, there aren't really, I wouldn't even call this a pattern alteration, but the Fiona Underwire bra as is, straight out of the pattern. The front frame is in 2 separate pieces. So if you want to do the fold over elastic just in one continuous piece, what you will do is you will overlap the front frame, center front frame, and the side front frame 1/2 of an inch because the seam allowances are 1/4 of an inch. And you will treat this as one. So you will cut out the frame just as one piece. Now, I'll make that like a smooth continuous curve rather than this point, just because I needed that bottom to be a straight line in order to cut the scalloped lace. But since you're finishing with fold over elastic, you can do more of a swoop or a nice curve from the side seam to the center front. So that's the only change that you'll make if you're making, or if you're finishing the bottom edge with fold over elastic versus having a scalloped lace. Also, when you do this alteration, you can sew the fold over elastic in one swoop, whereas when you do the scalloped lace version, you have to finish the bottom edge of the back bands and then attach it to the front frame. Next up in the collection is the Isla bralette and panty, which is another pattern that was released this holiday. Now, we only did one DIY kit for the Isla, and it's just pretty much straight out of the pattern. There are no alterations, none of that. So this one, I'll just do like a little quick walkthrough of what the inside looks like and the outside looks like. So when you're sewing up, you have a quick visual reference. That is the inside. This is the outside. This is the panty. Yeah, easy peasy. Next up is the Charlotte dress, and I'm gonna be short, just like the Charlotte, and sweet, and that there are no alterations to this kit. So it's sewn up exactly as the pattern. Next up is the Madalynne Simplicity 9802 teddy and robe. This is the teddy. And I don't think it showed up on the photos that I shared, but what I really loved about this was that the black lycra that was included in the kits had a rose pattern in it, which matched the rose and then embroidered lace. Listen, it's about those little details. This one was pretty much as is, as a pattern. There were no alterations to it. We finished the edges, the flanced edges with photo elastic. Yeah, I mean, this is an easy peasy again. Now the robe, the matching robe, what we did here is that we did some, it's adjusting to that black fabric, the lighting. So what we did here, can I even show this? Boom, boom, boom. So we finished the front edges or the neckline with the narrower embroidered tulle lace. And then we actually sewed it on top of the lycra, and the lycra was here, and then we sewed it on top and cut it back because we didn't want to make the neckline smaller. So we laid the embroidered tulle lace over the front pieces as well as the neckline, and then you can see that we cut it away afterwards. We did fold over elastic along the bottom edge, just because it was a lot. It was a lot of roses, so we're like, let's chill here, and we did it on the sleeve openings. So yeah, this is a really quick, easy, and fabulous sewing project. Okay, this is just stunning. This is just stunning. The 9974 corset, fashion corset dress. I say fashion because there's no waist reduction here. It is definitely measures larger than your body. There is ease in it versus negative ease, but that is beside the point. This is gorge. This is probably my favorite kit from the collection. What we did here is that on the 9974, we actually lowered the top portion of the bodice just because we wanted to be a little bit more va-va-voom. The way that the 9974 is drafted is very high on the chest. And honestly, what we did is when we sewed it up, we just tried it on and kind of cut it so that it was like this little swoop shape. So I encourage you to do the same thing, is that sew up the entire bodice as is, put it up to your body, and then create that neckline shape that you want. The one thing I wanted to note is that the strength layer for the 9974 kit is a stretch denim. And I actually liked it being stretched because it just gives a little bit of like, it honestly just made it a little bit more comfortable too, especially if you are going in between sizes. It was just a little bit of a more comfy fit versus having a non-stretch all the way around. This chain detail, I'm going to add a link because I have a reel on how I attach that chain detail. You basically use these two clips. That's what I wanted to mention. is that in your kits there are little ribbons. There's a velvet ribbon. You can use them for the straps, but then before attaching the binding, you want to do like a little loop here that you can put that ring around. So that little loop is attached inside the binding and will hold the chain detail. And what I like about that is that it's very inconspicuous. So that if you didn't want the chain detail on it, you could take these out because these unclasp, and you don't have to have the chain detail. Red velvet skirt, grommets for the back. Yeah, all right, that is the 9974. Next up is the Buffy bodysuit or the dress. Let's see here. Biggest thing that I want to call out is that in the kits, there is no underwire channeling, which is used for the boning as well as the plastic boning. We omitted that from this kit, just because it was just, we just want to be clean and simple. The sleeves use an all over stretch lace, and then the ruffle pieces use a galloon lace. So in your kits, you'll receive one white lace that's all over, and then another lace that is a scalloped, and that's used for the sleeve ruffles as well as the neckline ruffles. Now for the neckline ruffle, this is about 3.5, 4 inches, and then we measured the circumference of the neckline, did a 1.5 to 1 ratio, and then gathered it so that it would fit. If you want more gathers, you can do more. If you want less, you can do less. And we did the same thing for the sleeves. I think actually these were like 4.5 inches long or wide, the sleeve ruffle. And then we just did the circumference of the sleeve opening, and then we actually did a 2:1 ratio here, just give a little bit more flare. And then the bottom is the same, but the bottom we did not add any shearing. It was just straight attached to the skirt. For the neckline edge, we finished it with off-white photo elastic, but also included as black photo elastic in case you're sewing the bodysuit, and you use the black photo elastic for the leg line on the bodysuit, or you can use it on the neckline for a little contrast. Yeah, okay. So there are 2 more kits that were included in the collection. There were the swimwear kits, which is the Fiona and the Godiva, as well as the corset kit. So good news is that the models loved them so much that they asked for them. They were that fabulous. The bad news is that I don't have them here as an example. But if you have any questions regarding that Fiona swimsuit or the Godiva one-piece swimsuit or the mesh corset, please don't hesitate to reach out. There are the product photos in that, and I'll put photos in here as well, so that you can refer to when you're sewing up your kit. But you can always email hello@madalynne.com, and I will do my best to walk you through that. Oh, one more thing that I did forget about this, Buffy, is that we added a side zipper. So your kits come with a zipper, because getting this on was a little, but this is a lower stretch fabric, so we added a zipper just as like a just in case that you want to add a zipper to the side to make it easier to get in, especially that bodysuit, even though it has a snap closure at the crotch area. So hopefully this kind of cleared things up, or you get your sewing juices going to sew up those holiday kits. Again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out, and I will do my best to help you sew up your kits from this collection.